Here are the 12 crucial job search tips that will save you time and bring your resume to the top. First and most important is that you should keep only one effective copy of the resume. Don't have two copies, don't have a copy per industry, don't write a resume for each specific role that you are submitting. Don't extensively tweak it. Find a formula that works very well and just use it. Rather than maintaining 10 or 12 or 15 copies of your resume, spend all this effort into one really effective copy that works very well and just use it everywhere. Tweak it at most for every submission, but don't rewrite it or custom write it. Your goal is to submit resume faster than it takes for the recruiters and hiring managers to review it and make a decision. So rather than spending 1 hour to rewrite your resume, spend perhaps send perhaps 10 resumes or make 10 submissions or even at least 6 submissions during that hour. You'll have much higher chances of getting a job this way, because hiring managers and recruiters will either like your resume or they will not like your resume. This way you'll at least get more of the hiring managers to like your resume. Also subscribe for the notifications such as Indeed job alerts. Keep an eye if your resume is working. If it is not working, slightly change it and just use the new one. What do we mean by working is that if your resume is generating calls from recruiters, great. This means that it is fulfilling its purpose. Now it's just a matter of time and working through the numbers to make sure that you are as one of those 5 to 6 candidates who are invited for the interview, and that you are the top candidate who will get the position. Now, if the resume is not working for a long time, ask for somebody's advice. Bounce your ideas off. See if the way how they are seeing it, perhaps as somebody who is familiar with your industry or somebody who has no clue about your industry, how does it read? Does it have too much of the technical jargon? Does it have too many details? Or in a very clear and very plain language you're describing everything that is needed from the perspective of even a child that may understand it. Also tap into the passive job market, which are not advertised positions, and start building relationships and then leverage these relationships. Again, don't use the obscure concept of networking, but rather focus on a specific relationship, one at a time. Don't just socialize with numbers of people, but focus on building relationships with some specific individuals that you respect and with whom you do want to spend your time, as it is very precious. Reach out to someone and just find a way to how you can bring a value to them before asking something of them. And then as the relationship is enhanced, gently ask about what you need after you are able to bring the value to somebody. Your counterpart in the relationship will be very glad at this point to help you out if they can at all. Don't use cliches in your resume. Don't use all those beaten to death phrases that you all know about. Also, it is very important to mention the 80-20 and maybe even 90-10% dynamics in the job search. So what is 80-20? You probably have heard about this rule that 80% of problems come from 20% of sources and 80% of sources generate 20% of issues. Much the same way is with the knowledge and with the job search and with pretty much every other area of our life. We can, for example, know as a specialist 100% in one area, or maybe even 80% in one area, and will likely be able to accomplish 20% of the most advanced tasks in that area. Yet, as a generalist, we can choose 5 of the areas, get to know 20% in this area, and as the result, we can do about 80% of in those 5 areas, which is much bigger surface. So this is probably what you want to hire. What you want to know. Now, the other implication of this is that 80% of recruiters call to 20% of candidates, or more like 90% of recruiters call to 10% of candidates, and vice versa. So make sure that you don't just write good resume, but that your resume ends up in top 5 or top 10% at the worst of all of the resumes, because then it will end up definitely on top of any pile that it will end up with in a submission for a given position. Also, when you're filling endless applications in a candidate management software, which, by the way, half of those platforms are 7 years old or more, make it interesting, make it captivating and gathering attention. There are still human beings reading those submissions, rather than doing the copy paste or writing very, very long descriptions in the candidate management software. Just have few very tailored sentences that you write yourself that are describing the way you are. It will take you no time at all to write those several sentences, but they'll make a big difference. Also keep in mind that there is a seasonality, that in January and February and mid-September are likely the best months when the market picks up, and usually around December or summer there is a slower period. This has to do with the end of the fiscal year in the industry that you are playing. So for example, the fiscal year or the end of the financial year is different for the government and for the banks. On the other end of the screen, you'll have somebody who is likely very tired of reading bad and boring submissions. Even if you have the greatest but generic description, but make sure that whoever is reviewing your resume is learning something new about you, what you have done, how in what you are submitting you can make the submission interesting, and show that you have really done something interesting or innovative under the circumstances that you were. And just make sure that these tips will help you to get your resume and get it on top, because whenever there is interesting submission, chances are that it will get picked from the big pile of the resumes.